Okay. We live in a time where I don't owe anyone anything is seen as wisdom, like it's the ultimate glow up. You've probably seen it all over TikTok. Protect your peace, set boundaries. How many of you have heard this before? Nearly all of us, right? So I took the advice. I stopped texting first, cut off half my contact, and set my boundaries like a pro. And boom, I'm healed. Except instead, I'm sitting alone in my room, ignoring everyone, and wondering why I feel so lonely. But hey, at least my peace is protected, right? Here's the thing. This whole I don't owe anyone anything mentality, it's sold to us like it's a self-care hack, when in reality, it's kind of isolating. We go about our life thinking we don't owe anyone anything. Not a text, not a call, not even a ride to the airport. We never inconvenience ourselves in the name of others, and yet we mourn community. But if it was handed to us, we'd burn it to the ground. You might even call yourself an independent queen, claiming, I don't even need anyone to survive. Flex it like it's a flashy banner of achievement. But the harsh truth is, we're social humans. And at some point, your facade of the self-sustaining label is gonna come crashing down. And all you want is a hug and the presence of another. So yeah, sure, you've achieved the internet's step-by-step healing process. Congratulations. But what if, in doing so, you've isolated yourself from the very thing you needed the most? Actual, real human connection. Because no matter how much we try to convince ourselves otherwise, we all need community. It's what we're all missing. What I was missing. Today, I'm going to teach you exactly how and why our ancestors had community. And maybe, just maybe, you'll finally learn to ask your neighbor for some sugar in the process. Let me introduce you to my community. Growing up, I grew up in a neighborhood where everyone was really close. When my parents would travel, I'd stay over at the neighbor's house. When I was sick, they'd bring over some soup, and if one person baked way too many sweets, the whole neighborhood got a taste. Need a ride to the airport? Done. Out of lemons, apples, that one fancy Belgian chocolate only one person on that block had? Done. Got a new art piece to hang, or need someone to babysit while you sneak out for lunch with your besties? Done. But what stood out to me most wasn't the food, the favors, or the shared errands. When I got my Turkish citizenship and I had to move to Turkish school, I asked my friends to come with me. Now, they had no reason to agree. We weren't even in the same grade, and none of us really knew Turkish. But they came anyway, because that's how strong our community was. And when things went downhill and I got isolated and bullied in my class, they were all there for me. They were there in the breaks, on the way home, and at any moment that I needed it. In the end, they were the reason I survived middle school. For most of us, that's when I really learned what community meant. Not just the food or the favors or the convenience, but the people who choose you, even when it cost them something. For most of us, as we grew older, people moved, grew apart, and went their separate ways. Our duns became less frequent, and we had less support. It wasn't until it was gone that we realized just how much we really needed it. Community isn't just a nice to have, it's a fundamental need. Our relationships are tied to survival, success, and well-being. When we're cut off from them, whether through exclusion or self-imposed isolation, we harm ourselves in profound, often invisible ways. Let's take ostracism as a case study. Historically, exclusion wasn't just inconvenient, it was devastating. In ancient societies like Greece, ostracism was a form of punishment where people could vote to exile someone from the community for up to 10 years. Now, this wasn't just loneliness, it was a death sentence. The bonds of community provided them with everything, food, safety, shelter, you name it. Being banished literally meant being cut off from survival. Fast forward to today, and while we may not exile people physically, and resources are way more accessible, the effects of social isolation are just as devastating, but in more subtle ways. According to the US Surgeon General, loneliness is directly linked to cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. And it doesn't just stop there. Social isolation has been shown to have the same negative impact as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Think about that for a second. The same social connections we take for granted are essential to our survival. When we deny ourselves or others the deep bonds of community, we risk everything. What's important here isn't just the physical harm that loneliness causes, but the psychological toll it has on us as well. So exclusion, even in recent days, has the same exclusion even in recent days can trigger the parts of the brain that feel physical pain. Our body reacts to social exclusion the same way it would react to injury. So while we may not exile people physically, the emotional consequences are just as bad. We have to understand that community isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. This is where altruism comes in. In sociology, altruism refers to the selfless concern for the well-being of others, even at the cost of one's own. It is the glue that holds communities together. Without it, society becomes a loose connection of individuals acting purely in self-interest, resulting in the loss of cooperation, trust, and ultimately, cohesion. History offers us a chilling example in the IK people of Uganda, once cooperative society of hunter-gatherers displaced by famine and forced scarcity. As survival became more difficult, the IK people of Uganda as survival became more difficult, compassion became rare, parents abandoned their children, and neighbors stole from one another. Sociologist Colin Turnbull, who studied them in the 1960s, documented what happens when society abandons interdependence. Community dies, and with it, dignity. The IK people didn't collapse due to war or disease, but because altruism was no longer viable. It wasn't safe to care for others. And when care disappears, so does humanity. So, our mental health doesn't benefit from individualism, and neither does our physical health. And yet, we're constantly sold this idea that if we just focus on ourselves, push through, and work harder, we will succeed. Grind culture tells us that the only thing standing between us and our goals and our dreams is how willing we are to sacrifice everything for the goal. But what if that sacrifice is connection? What if, on the path to success, we lose community? In fact, if you were to watch any goal-oriented corporate day in my life on the internet, you would see that the protagonist's ability to go to gym at 5 a.m., work overtime in their office job, meal prep for the week, and scroll till it's time to do it all over again is due to the absence of another. If I were to be honest with you, people do disrupt your routine. Your friends' breakup disrupts your survive in the capitalist West schedule, and the random check-in call breaks the lock-in regime. Let's say, though, you choose that life to be successful and rich, and you reach your goal. Then what? When you're on your deathbed, you don't have anything to reminisce, and your memories are limited because you prioritized your career. Was it all really worth it? If we continue to put ourselves ahead to reach a certain goal, we might just look around at some point, only to realize we're alone out here. Okay, I think you get the point. Why community is important. But how do you actually start building one? Especially when no one around you seems into it, and society keeps undermining its value? Well, I have a step-by-step guide for you. Step 1, relearn interdependence. Somewhere along the way, we equated needing people with being weak. Like asking for help made us a burden. Like leaning on someone meant we weren't healed or whole or enough on our own. But that's a lie. We were never meant to do life solo. Relearning interdependence means unlearning shame. It means silencing that inner voice in your head that tells you you should have figured this out on your own, or you're doing too much. It means picking up the phone even when your pride wants you to pretend you're fine, and it means texting, "Are you home?" instead of questioning whether you're being too clingy. And no, you're not a failure for asking for help. You're not broken, and you're not weak. You're just human. And letting people help you isn't stealing their energy, it's giving them the honor of showing up for you. Because no matter how much, because if the roles were reversed, we know we'd do it without a second thought. Vulnerability is not the opposite of strength, it is strength. Step 2, get out of your house. The issue with the golden promise is it's premised on the false idea that inconvenience and discomfort are inherently negative and need to be fixed. Because who wants to be uncomfortable if there's a way around it? It is awful to walk into a room and not know anyone. Going on my phone, pretending to be busy is much easier. There are at least 20 minutes of awkward small talk if I go to a friend's game night where I won't know everybody. It is easier to just cancel over text than deal with the possibility that I will go and no one will like me. We place ourselves in this paradox of craving deep and meaningful relationships with the weight of a 10-year-old friendship without being willing to do any of the work that gets us there. In unsurprising news, the weight and comfort of a 10-year-old friendship takes 10 years to build. And it starts with getting through some awkwardness and small talk, the boring and repetitive kind, the "how are you, what's your name, where are you from?" and dealing with the possibility that you might get hurt and rejected over and over and over again. It is an echo of the same conversation you've had 100 times. So what's 101? Is there even anything meaningful that is achieved purely through convenience? When I say get out of your house, I mean it literally. Open the door, touch some grass, say hi to your neighbor, smile at the barista, ask the person next to you on the bus how their day is going. Even if all you get back is a polite nod, that's one more thread in the web of community. Because community isn't just your ride or dies, it's the people in your building, your mosque or church, your gym, your bus stop. Every interaction is a route grounding you deeper and deeper into your neighborhood, your city, your world. You cannot build community from your bed. And trust me, I've tried. Comfort zones are very comfortable, but growth doesn't happen inside them. Connection doesn't happen inside them. You have to go first, and you have to go outside. Step 3, the final step. Show up. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Show up because you can. Show up because the people in your life deserve to know they are worth more than your free time. Show up to that birthday dinner. Text your friends before their big audition. Just be there for them. Because that's the real love. Not the flashy kind, but the quiet loyalty. And if no one around you is doing it, you start. You be the kind of love, the kind of presence, the kind of community, the kind of friendship you wish existed. It's going to be awkward sometimes. One-sided sometimes. But someone is always watching. When you live this way, loving out loud, giving without expecting anything back, you give others the permission to do the same. And most importantly, you don't keep score. You don't track who texted first, who owes you a favor, who forgot your birthday. Because if you're counting every single act of kindness, you're not building a community. You're building a scoreboard. And relationships are not competitions. Community only thrives when you give without expecting something back, when you forgive without the but, and when you show up just because. Keeping track might protect your ego, but it poisons your connections. Finally, you need to stop. You don't love to be loved back, and you don't help to be held back. So yeah, maybe. You don't owe anyone anything. But if you keep living like that, never calling first, never staying late, never holding space for someone else's mess. You wake up one day having everything, except anyone. Community doesn't depend on convenience, it depends on choice. On choosing to knock the door, choosing to pick up the phone, choosing to show up, even when it's raining, even when you're tired, even when it's not your problem. It's not about owing, it's about offering. On offering your time, offering your presence, offering your love without the expectation of getting it back in equal measure. So inconvenience yourself. Ask for help. Let people in. Be the first to show up and the last to leave. Share your life like it's a table with chairs for more than just your inner circle. In conclusion, convenience is overrated. Thank you.